Charlie. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy Friday. Oh, look at my collar. It's all skew-iff. How are you doing? Thanks for tuning in all the way from Cambodia, Grace. My goodness. That's keen 4:30 in the morning. Wow. I take it you guys can hear me okay. I'm just testing a new microphone. But it doesn't, I'm not seeing movement on the indicator. On your way back from Mornington, Paulina. Very nice. Podcast style mic. Well, yeah, Aled, I'm going to step things up. I've been talking about for months now, haven't I, about the office renovation, and it's coming. I will shortly be getting everything out of here, repainting. We've got some studio lights coming in and a new camera, and we're going to be doing more with podcasting and psychology generally, more live streaming, more videos, and certainly more work around clinical psychology and mental illness stigma, and also coordination. So I'm really, I've been testing the waters over the last couple of years, I suppose, with this idea of being able to communicate with you all via this live stream modality and via vlogs and so forth, and now moving towards podcasts. It seems to have gone well, and the feedback seems to be positive. So moving forward, I'm going to step it up and really embrace this as one of my core ways to communicate with you all out there. And you all, or most of you, just sat the exam at the Royal Exhibition Building. You know how many of you are out there now. You've been finally all together in the same room, and there's a lot, right? And I just think this is much more personal than staying in front of a very large group of people all at once. Even though we're doing it digitally, it's a little bit more intimate. So I think it's a good way to coordinate. Do you even ABC, bro? Yeah, I threw that in there for you. Charlie's joined us. Where's Charlie? Charlie, come here and say hello to everyone. Come on. Oh, you're going to bring your boot. Charlie has a gum boot that he likes. Come on, bring it up here. Give me the booty. This is Charlie's gum boot. Come and get your booty. Come and get your booty. Come up here. Yes. Jump, big fellow. Oh, jump, big fellow. So one thing, of course, can we share booty? One thing, of course, that, come on up, big boy. We haven't surveyed your thoughts on yet is Charlie's lecturing performance. What did you think about Charlie's lecturing performance? How would we rate him? What would the subject experience survey say about you, Charlie? I wonder if it does. I wonder if there are any comments about you and your lecture performance, Charlie. Oh, you're getting so big and fat. Oh, I'm not fat, just big. Booty. Woo! 120 out of 100. Yeah. Yes, his Greek costume. I promise I will disseminate a photo of Charlie at some point in his Groot costume. glad that tickled your fancy. Snowy. Oh, Izzy, you're only around for 15 minutes. That's all right. Looking fresh. Uni break suits me. Wow. Yes, looking fresh, maybe. I don't know. Is this what fatigue looks like? I can assure you of that. So, uni break is not really a thing for us, for the academics. So behind the scenes, this week has been so busy. Oh my goodness. So I have obviously on Monday we had the exam, right? It was great to see you all turning out for that, and hopefully that wasn't too stressful. And judging by the exam marks that I've processed over the last couple of days, it hasn't been too stressful, or people did generally very well on the exam. And that's where I've spent my last 2 days, really taking the exam marks, putting them together with the REP data, with the assignment 1 data, the assignment 2 data, the attendance data, and getting that all together and checking that twice, and then sharing it with another colleague to have them check it. And now I'm going to do a final pass today. Then it goes to our Director of Teaching and Learning, who will review it. And then from that point, I will, what happens is next week, all of the subject coordinators get together in a single, very long meeting called the Board of Examiners meeting. And this is where we present our spreadsheet of marks and our analysis of the marks to the Board of Examiners. We consider anomalies, so cases maybe where things haven't been submitted and so forth. We look at the overall distribution. We agree that the marks are correct and have been formed, fairly correctly. It's accurate. Everything's on board. And then once we've done that, then we upload the marks to the central system in terms of your final mark for Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2. And then we once again go through a double checking process. So by the time by the time you see them online, they've been checked probably about 10 times. But you've got to get it right? So there you go. So there's that. Research is in full swing at the moment for me. So my National Stigma Report Card project is in absolute full swing at the moment. I don't know if you've seen the website yet, but I'll share the website with you. Bear with me 1 second. I'm working with multiple screens here, and I'm just so bad at doing that because I don't do it very often. So that is my website that's going to be evolving as the National Stigma Report Card Survey and project evolves. At the moment, we're collecting data. And you'd remember we're going to recruit about 7,000 people living with severe and complex mental health issues in Australia. And we're aiming to do that over the next few months. Certainly, if you are living with complex mental health issues, then you may be eligible to take the survey. You can certainly look and see if you're eligible and if you're interested. And that has been keeping me on my toes. I think I mentioned last time that there was a bot attack that had occurred on the survey where some hackers had targeted the survey to try and defraud us, essentially, of the participant reimbursements. And there altogether were about 4,000 attempts at the survey pretending to be real people to try and get the money for completing the survey, and that's been a whole thing, but it's under control. Got it sorted for now. Plus, what else is going on? Oh goodness me! There's of course the other thing that all of your lecturers do is their own research. So that's one thing, but also we train the next generation of researchers. So my honors students have just finished for the year. They're in their 4th year. And I know some of you are really interested in becoming honors students. Aled, for example, I know you're a grad dip, so maybe you're interested in doing honors in the future, and maybe a lot of you are interested in doing honors in the future. And my honors students, I had 2. They have just finished their theses for the year. So one of those people were looking at stigma in telephone counselors towards clients with borderline personality disorder, and the other was looking at stigma about negative symptoms of schizophrenia. I've got a clinical master's student as well. I've got a PhD student who is requires looking after. I've got 2 new PhD students who are just about to start. So while it doesn't sound like much, in that, that's just a handful of people. And the reason I'm telling you this, by the way, is because I've received a few questions via email recently wanting to know about what it's like to actually be an academic. So I thought I'd share a little bit. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of people to look after, but each one of these students is learning some very advanced skills, maybe in terms of data analysis, research design, or writing at, a doctoral level, I suppose you could say. And I meet with each one of those people for at least an hour a week. And then we have, some work together outside of that hour. So, it's time consuming, but it's a really rewarding aspect of the job to be cultivating the next generation of researchers in your field. And then I've got interns as well. So if you are interested in the future in becoming an intern in my lab, you could keep following me on social media. I generally tweet out when there's an opportunity. And in fact, my summer intern that's just about to start was in Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2 last year. And it was at this time last year for him that we organized the internship that's happening this summer. And so he'll be doing some work on a project that's looking at media reporting of schizophrenia and linking schizophrenia with violent crime in television news reports. Then there's committees. There's all sorts of things going on with committees and social media and partnerships with other organizations like Lifeline and Sane and Beyond Blue and On the Line and all sorts of things going on. So, it's a really varied role. And there's certainly, I suppose, a lot that goes on behind the scenes other than just the lecturing and just the coordinating. But certainly if you're interested in potentially doing a PhD in the future and becoming an academic, I highly recommend it. It's a very stimulating job and a really luxurious job in that effectively I've carved out a role where I spend my time doing precisely what I'm interested in doing. Sure, there's, times like this week where that comes with some really grinding, monotonous administrative work in terms of results processing, which still is really interesting. But it's a great career, I think, if you are that way inclined. Okay, the honors program. I see we're interested in that. So the honors program is the 4th year psychology program. Well, it's, I suppose, one of our 4th year psychology programs. The honors program is the route that you would pursue if you were maybe interested in becoming a psychologist or working in maybe a clinical or a neuro or a general psychological practice field. We also have alternative. I'm just going to get another link here. We also have alternative. Hang on, can't do 2 things at once with my male brain. Okay, so the honors program is one route. The other route that one may want to take at 4th year is the Masters of Applied Psychology. And I've just put the link up there on the website. So let's talk about the honors program. I've told you that it's, predominantly for people who would want to go on to pursue either a clinical setting, a clinical career, or one like mine, where you're working predominantly in academia, in research, and you'll need an honors degree to be able to get to the next steps, which might be a master's degree and or a PhD, finally, a doctoral degree, which would be the last bit. So the honors degree is made up of 2 main parts. 50% of the marks come from coursework, subjects just like you've been doing, but very specialized subjects, and much more advanced than the content that you have touched on so far. Does that mean we want Charlie again, Spooky Shadow? So, for example, in the honors program, you would most likely have a lecture or seminar series that would be maybe on current topics in social psychology, and it would be dealing with the really high level, very cutting edge, what's happening right now in social psychological research that's really important. And the classes are much smaller because there's only about 100 places in the honors program every year. And there's a lot of opportunity for interaction with the staff. So think about, and this is actually more broadly speaking the case for the 2nd and 3rd year psychology subjects. They explore each one of the topics that you've sampled very quickly this semester. So clinical psychology, developmental, social and personality, and research methods. They'll explore each of those areas in iteratively greater detail and progressively sort of more advanced ways and nuanced ways in each year level. So in second year, there would be maybe a course that just looked at cognitive psychology. So that's from Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1, if you did Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1, or developmental psychology. If we go into the third year, there's a third year course that's all about clinical psychology. And so there's whole semester long subjects that are just on that one topic, rather than having smatterings of all different types of topics. It's the same in the fourth year program. The other half of the fourth year program is the thesis, the research thesis, where the students work one-on-one with an academic to design a research project, to run that research project, and then write up that research project in a thesis. It's like a really big lab report that is 10,000 words in length. And it sounds like a lot, 10,000 words, I know, at this point in time. But by the time you're, ready for honors, you'll be ready to do something like that. We're only at the start, right? We're only at the end of first year. The Masters of Applied Psychology is the other route. Now, you can go straight into this master's degree following third year if you wish. And it's not clinical. It deals with applied psychology in a range of areas of work practice. So everything from advertising to behavior change, public health, data analysis and research design. When you even just stop and think about what it is you learned this semester, so exam's done, right? Forget the exam, throw that stressful experience out into the ether. Now think about what you actually covered this semester. You learned a lot about the continuum of mental health and mental health problems. You learned about how you acquire psychological attributes, how this changes over the course of your life. You learned about how groups affect you and how they can affect our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. In terms of personality, you've learned a lot more about how to think about what makes you you. And you've also learned a lot about connections between these things. And there's a lot you can take there forward to apply to your everyday life, and certainly to, I think, whatever type of role you work in the future, and whatever type of study you do in the future as well. The content that we cover in psychology is so broadly relevant to your life because ultimately it's all about you and the people around you. So, okay, Izzy, take care. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you engaging. That's great. So yeah, people who are in genetic counseling, spooky shadow quite often will have some experience in psychology. So importantly, we don't see psychologists just working in the health system or in the sort of the system around the health system in terms of clinical practice, for example. We also see people who have taken psychology undergraduate work or postgraduate work, working in a range of roles that support clinical work, or that might be involved with not-for-profits working in the mental health sector, maybe working with the government and whatnot in health and mental health sectors. Just generally broadly, psychology graduates or people that have taken psychology subjects are really very appealing to a range of employers for a range of reasons. And one of them is certainly your advanced critical thinking and data analysis skills. So this is something we've certainly been working across the first year to cultivate. And if you haven't done Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1 yet, then I'd certainly encourage you to do Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1. It's going to be radically different next year. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But this whole idea of being able to think critically about claims, assess evidence, make sound logical arguments and conclusions on a range of given topics is a really unique skill set, not one that's necessarily embodied in every area of study, and certainly is one of the reasons why psych graduates are so sought after by employers. Hi, Tom. Briefly discuss what's the difference between so I assume you mean the psychology major in the Faculty of Arts and the Faculty of Science, or the Faculty of Biomedicine for that. MBHS for that matter. It's all the same. There's no difference. The school sits outside of arts and science and actually sits in the medicine, dentistry, and health sciences faculty. At the very top of our chat window, I think, yeah, I did. I put some links in there at the top of the chat window that I might refer to throughout the time together today. And one of them is the link to the school website. Go and have a look at that. But Tom, the short story is there's no difference between the subjects or the majors, exactly the same in terms of the psychology subjects that you would need to take. Aled, how would you go about getting a research assistant role with no practical research experience and only midway through a psych degree grad dip? That would be difficult. Quite often for example, the research assistants that I hire, I'm hiring them because they have a skill set that I need. And that skill set generally comes with a minimum of an honors degree. However, certainly the RAs that I hire, I typically have finished their honors degrees, because I will need them to be, doing a range of things for me that might involve some very advanced data analysis, for example, or research skills. What you could start doing, however, Aled, is maybe doing something like I was referring to before with my interns. So there are a range of opportunities that come up from time to time in the various academics labs for internships. The way that I run my internships in my labs is quite formal. So I like to not only give students experience that's going to be valuable for them through internship, but I also like them to get something tangible out of it. And so I run my internships through the science and arts. I think it's Sci 3002 and maybe Arts 3002, or whatever the arts equivalent is. And it's called the Science and Technology subjects or something like that, Industry and Technology subjects. Anyway, it's a subject where you do some coursework, but you get credit for completing the subject via doing an internship. So my summer intern this summer is going to be getting a subject worth of credit towards his degree for completing his internship, essentially, in my lab. That's how I like to do it. Yeah, Aled, it's just pragmatics, really. So the whole, just speaking again to speak from behind the curtain as an academic pragmatically, the reason I hire RAs is because I want to achieve something, and I only have so many hours in the day. And if I want to achieve that, when I say I, think sort of I and my lab need the capacity and human working hours to be able to make that thing happen. So if I'm chasing something, I want to do a new project, I want to go after a grant opportunity, I will use some of the money that I have in my working accounts at the university to hire research assistants to do that legwork for me. There's different levels of research assistants. Sometimes I might want a research assistant to do a higher level of work that requires some very advanced data analysis skills, and I might actually be looking for somebody who has a PhD. Carolina, all right, let me tell you about the changes in Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1 that are coming up for next year. A lot of you would know that Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1 was similar to Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2 in that there were 3 lectures a week. There was a 2-hour practical class each week. There was the REP. There were my online research methods modules. We're shaking things up considerably, changing things up a lot. And here are the broad brush strokes. Oh, my motorcycle is ready to pick up. That's good. It's gone for a service. So, what was I saying? Right, Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1. Here's the broad brushstrokes. In Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1, and incidentally, this will be the same for Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2 next year. Sorry, everyone. Slightly improved, I think. Really exciting, though. Work in progress. Don't get upset. Just hands. Quick, Charlie, come here. We'll show them something cute. Long story short, we're decreasing the load, decreasing the content load of the subjects. But just think about how much you know right now, right? Well, I mean, we're sort of decreasing the load, but we're not. Oh, God. We're sort of decreasing the load, but we're not. What? It's going to be a very similar load. The amount of content really isn't going to change, but it's going to be delivered in different ways. So here's the broad brushstrokes. There will not be 3 lectures per week. There will be 2 lectures per week. There's not going to be a 2-hour tutorial every week. There's going to be a 1.5-hour tutorial. The first week is going to be an introductory sort of week. There will be a week in the middle of the semester that's dedicated to support with the assignments. So no lectures during that week. It'll be sort of Q&A sessions in the lecture theatre. And then in the last week, it's also going to be no lectures. It'll be me in the lecture theatre doing revision and helping people prepare for the exam. The third lecture each week that's disappeared is being replaced with an online resource. Paulina, this is to get to your question here. The online resource will be something that is quite practical, that draws a link between the lecture content and what is going to be explored in either the assignment or the practical classes. And it will be something that you will work together in groups in a way online to explore things collaboratively. I agree, Acacia. It does feel heavy, doesn't it? So we have heard that. So we've heard that feedback in the subject experience surveys. We've looked at a range of solutions to enhance people's study experience, to decrease pressure, to increase student well-being, and to, I think, maintain or actually, in my opinion, significantly improve the quality of the psychology subject. So this is actually, while we're pioneering this with Mind, Brain and Behavior 1 next year, it's going to happen with every other psychology subject. So in next year and beyond, your other psychology subjects are all going to be doing this in one way or another. So it's part of a whole school curriculum overhaul that is just aiming to improve things for you in terms of your educational experience and your education. So imagine everything that needs to change as a result of that, and then that will give you an insight into, again, why we don't necessarily get a break when the semester is over. So we've been working on this for a few months now, and I'm coordinating the project, so working with each lecturer and their support staff that have come on to help create new content and new videos and new everything. And we're working towards having this completed by the end of the year, and then we pilot sort of through summer and test and debug and roll out for Mind, Brain and Behavior 1 next year. And at the same time in summer, the work begins for Mind, Brain and Behavior 2 next year. So, lots of things happening in the background right now. Okay, so what's the difference between a clinical psychologist and a clinical neuropsychologist? Clinical psychologists will typically work in hospital settings, for example, with people who are affected by mental illness, who are living with mental health problems, generally more severe problems, intractable depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, psychosis, bipolar, personality disorders, and so forth. So all of those things that we were talking about in my clinical psychology section. A clinical neuropsychologist, however, is different. Neuropsychologists work with disorders that arise from organic brain issues. Now, we all have already discussed that there are structural and functional differences associated with a range of mental illnesses. But with neuropsychology, what we're talking about is things like conditions that arise from an acquired brain injury, for example, or a stroke, or geriatric conditions, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, etc., etc. This would be more the domain of the neuropsychologist. And then you have got people who are interested in working in both domains. And the beauty of clinical neuropsychology and clinical psychology degrees are that, to a degree, they give you an opportunity to work sort of somewhere in the middle. So, for example, a friend of mine who I did honors with back a long time ago at the University of Melbourne in our school. She's now a neuropsychologist, but she works in what's called aged psychiatry. And that is a field where she works with people who are getting on in age, maybe in the later stages of life, but have also had a history of mental illness and maybe also developing dementia on top of that, and works with disentangling those processes and coming up with appropriate treatment and management plans and so forth. The route to becoming a clinical psychologist via the graduate diploma is firstly to finish the graduate diploma, either part-time or full-time. Then, this is for you, Willow, then once you have done that, to do the 4th year degree, the honors degree, and then after that, then comes the clinical master's degree. So once you finish your honors degree and enroll in the clinical masters, you're eligible for general registration as a probationary psychologist. And then once you go on and finish your master's degree and placement hours and practice requirements, then you are able to be endorsed as a clinical psychologist. So that's the basic pathway. Let me have a look at these questions. I'm sure I'll be missing stuff here. Aled, if you are interested in doing an intern, is it RA? Oh, RA. Okay. RA. Okay. I'm with you now. Okay. We'll keep you in mind for 2022. If any of you are interested in the future in doing an internship in the mental illness stigma lab, then certainly always feel welcome to contact me. I'm not scary. And incidentally, if stigma isn't your thing, or maybe is your thing, but you think that, oh gosh, I was really interested in, for example, Abby's student well-being research that she's doing, then you should feel really comfortable to drop Abby or any of the other academics a line and just let them know that you were interested and ask for advice about finding an internship and so forth. Squeaky wheel, right? You'll never know unless you ask. That's a really good question, Paulina. There sort of is. So if you go to the school web page and then have a look at the staff, there that's a good way to peruse what sort of research areas the staff are working in and which labs they are tied to. There is some new bits to the website coming. We've actually got a range of what we call hubs, research hubs in the school. So the school organizes itself by these clusters we call hubs. I'm in the clinical and what are we called right now? We're going through a name change, but right now the clinical research hub, essentially, that's where you'll find my lab, along with other labs that look at things like trauma research and eating disorder research and individualized treatment research, and we're all tied to the school clinic as well in one way or another. And then there are different labs that look, different hubs that look at ethics and well-being, decision-making, complex human data processing. There's a range of hubs, and these are each about to have, if they don't already, have their own website or section of the school website. So moving forward, I suppose one of my key recommendations would be for you all to keep in contact with what's going on via the website, but probably more pragmatically just by following school social media, because the school social media convener is out there behind the scenes tweeting things and putting things on Facebook and so forth about opportunities, about developments at the school, and it's a good way to stay in touch. So at the top again of our chat window, I pasted in our Twitter account and our Facebook account, and that I would suggest following the school Twitter, following the school Facebook, good ways to stay in touch with what's going on. Also following us on YouTube and the YouTube channel. You can link to that via, at the top of the window, you'll see the Psych Talks recordings. And that has our very first Psych Talks podcast, which has just been released, along with recordings from all of the Psych Talks events that have been held to date. And there's a couple with me and on Stigma, and there's lots from a range of the school staff talking with a range of things. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there, and quite often while I'm in transit to work, I will listen to those through headphones. Oh, you've watched a few, Snowy. That's great. So they're a reasonably recent development, but something we're really working to build in the coming years. Learning disabilities. This will be in advanced developmental psychology subjects in second and third and fourth year and beyond, Acacia. So just for the sake of, well, actually not just so for the sake of time, but for a range of reasons, we tend to not cover learning disabilities in clinical sort of psychology. We think about those things in a slightly different way in undergraduate courses. What other questions have we got here? How are you going there, Charlie? You asleep? Oh, you're a sleepy puppy. You're a sleepy puppy. Oh, you're so floppy. Yes, Acacia. That's one of the things you'll start to experience more and more every time you take a new second or third year psychology subject. You're going to start to see the connections between the various things that you are taking in other subjects and have started to take in previous subjects. Oh, good. You went to the talk last night. Excellent. Everything is connected. There you go. Degree done. Oh, that's good coffee. I'm letting it get too cold, though. I don't really like lukewarm coffee. And here I am saying I'm letting it getting too cold. So it's just getting out of that acceptably warm space for me now to the bit where it's going to go into lukewarm, and then I'm just going to have to leave it and let it go for a while. But you would think, oh, God, Chris has been sitting there for 45 minutes and his coffee's still warm? How is that a thing? Let me let you in on a little secret. These are my fabulous new cast iron espresso cups. So cast iron on the outside and then ceramic on the inside. And then I've got espresso down there, and it's actually still warm. The cast iron heats up, keeps it nice and warm. I am an espresso man. I'm a double espresso man. I never used to be a coffee man. Well, when did I get onto coffee? When did I start coffee? I started coffee when I was a marine mammal trainer. The marine mammal team were big on the coffee. but I was into milk coffee. And then after marine mammal training, and when I came to study full time, an Italian friend of mine put me onto a macchiato. When I wanted to drink coffee, but it was too milky and it was making me feel a bit sick in the volumes in which I was consuming coffee as a student studying. And then the macchiato was my gateway coffee to a long black, and then I liked my long black shorter and shorter, and ended up at the espresso, and then being a sleep deprived person, upped it to the double espresso. Double espresso is my jam. Charlie Puss, or Pup, I should say, are you going to come and say hello to everyone? You're quite comfortable where you are, aren't you? Ollie, any advice on the special exam? Differences or similarities to this week's exam? Nuggets. Oh, gosh. There will be differences. This is true. The special exam will be different to the regular exam. That is my nugget for you. Many of my previous nuggets apply. What was I going to say? Can you bring dogs into the special exam for bonus points? I think it's probably too late for me to be able to add a question into the exam asking if you did bring a dog, a yes or no question. But when's the special exam? I'll most likely be there myself, so I can check to see if you've brought a dog, and I will award extra points for a dog, of course. Charlie says yes. Yes, Queen! Extra points for dogs. All right. What was I going to tell you about? Oh, okay. So, everybody, I presume, that has tuned into this stream did the Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2 Hearing Voices program. So you went to the DAX. You might have watched some videos and tuned into the live stream with Sandy Jeffs, the same Australia ambassador, and myself. I'm just about to release on Canvas a little survey asking people for feedback about that. And if you look at the top of the chat window, the very top link is a link to the little survey about the Hearing Voices program. So it's basically asking for your thoughts on what you experienced and whether or not you thought it was useful, and gives a space for you to suggest any changes or improvements that you think would be useful moving forward. And then I'm going to collect that feedback, and basically I will approach the powers that be in the university if the feedback is favorable and say, hey, this is what we've done. Would you please fund this program moving forward as a permanent addition to the undergraduate curriculum in psychology, and not only restrict it to Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2, but also expand it. And there's so many more videos coming that are in the pipeline already, everyone. So if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, check in every now and again, or subscribe so you see them popping up. There's about another 12 in various stages of completion right now that I'll wind up over the next month or two. Yeah, that's right. Sandy was in the Age recently. So that was great. The findings were about to be handed down from the National Mental Health, the Royal Commission into the mental health system as well, that Sandy spoke at and I spoke at. And I think Sandy and I are both, again, speaking at a hearing for the Victorian Equal Opportunities and Human Rights Commission. Is it next Monday, Monday after, about mental illness discrimination and vilifying language and so forth. So Sandy is just an incredible ambassador for people living with schizophrenia and people living with mental health problems generally, and is just really active out there in the community, in media, contributing to these commission hearings and so forth to try and improve the system and improve outcomes for people living with these conditions. Let me ask you this, people out there in the chat room. Would you be interested, as we start to do more with this video medium, would you be interested in seeing maybe not live streams, but maybe vlog style videos that come along to maybe those hearings of where I might be speaking at the Royal Commission and Sandy might be speaking at a Royal Commission or something like that, and then hearing what she has to say, and then maybe with us having a chat afterwards, something like that. Maybe we could do a whole sort of video sort of stream on the mental health system and what sorts of things that are big happening in that space and following that. Have you done any research about reducing stigma for people to seek mental health help? Yeah. So I suppose in a way, Snowy, part of the National Stigma Report Card study is getting at this idea. So part of our recruitment strategy has been not only to exclusively recruit people who already have a diagnosis of a severe or complex mental health condition, but we've also opened up eligibility to people who think they might have one of those conditions but have never sought help because of stigma. So the way that we actually do this pragmatically, what time is it? Is it 11:30? Have I got another meeting right now? Oh no, in 15 minutes. Okay, we're okay. We're okay. I thought so. The way we've done this pragmatically for the sample is by having like a layer of an entry sort of layer question where people can say, I've never received a diagnosis, but I think I might be living with one of these conditions. And then we go through a screening questionnaire that screens symptoms of those conditions and can get a sense of whether or not somebody is likely to meet criteria for, schizophrenia or something like that. But have never received a diagnosis. And there's a whole range of research, Snowy, that's looked at the effects of stigma reduction campaigns and initiatives that just generally seek to open up discussions, provide education, provide contact with people with mental illness, And what we see with those general types of interventions is that you do get people who have not sought help before coming forth to seek help more often, because essentially what we're doing is culturally sanctioning seeking help for mental illness or mental health problems. We're making it okay in our culture to be able to ask for help and for mental health problems to be a real thing that don't necessarily indicate that you're a weak person or you're violent or you can't be trusted, you're unpredictable, and so forth. So in that way, yeah, we do have a lot of evidence looking at the relationship between mental health, mental illness stigma, and help seeking. So one of the things that I spoke about at the Royal Commission into the mental health system were these two competing demands, that if we are going to destigmatize mental health, mental illness, and in doing so encourage more people to seek help, then we damn well better have the services available for those people when they do seek help. So you'll quite often see, so if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that I'm occasionally getting into a debate with some of the key people around the country who will say, stigma doesn't matter. It's all we need to think about is having mental health services, and vice versa. Other people saying stigma is what matters. What matters. Disregard everything else. But it's actually, a very complex problem. This idea of getting people to seek help for mental health problems that they're having, and actually having a sufficient mental health system to serve them when they do. And we need to think about all of the pieces of the puzzle, in my opinion. Charlie Puss, I need you to wake up. Come on, it's nearly time to say goodbye to everyone. We've been on for an hour. Can you come up and get booty? Booty! Everybody loves booty. Charlie does. Come on. Come on. Oh, hello. You say hello to everyone? Oh, you want to do that? You're so cute. Okie dokie. So, I think that just about is my time. Well, it is my time because I need to get ready for my next meeting. But maybe this isn't the last stream. So this is it. Yeah, sort of. I think I might do some more live streams, but maybe not announce them through Canvas anymore. I'll just announce them through my YouTube channel. So in that respect, for those of you who would like to stay connected and connected to each other as part of, as Aled says, the MBB2 gang, feel free to keep an eye out for those streams over summer. And maybe I'll do something from that commission hearing in a couple of weeks' time. We'll see. I'll put my thinking cap on. Okay, so everyone, thank you very much for tuning in for these live streams this semester. You've made it. The MBB1 format, Ollie, is in summer is different. It's an intensive. It's a different model again. So it requires that you can actually turn up for 3 weeks. So everyone, grad tips that do MBB1 in summer actually do the entire first semester in 3 weeks. It's pretty intense, but it's a great way to do it, I think. So it's slightly different. It's lectures from 9 till 1 most days, and then a range of different assessments as the 3 weeks go on. So it's a different one again, Ollie, and different to what was in MBB1 in the normal semester and what will be. But I'll see you there if you're there in summer. So again, everyone, thanks for tuning in to this semester. It wouldn't work without you. So I really appreciate you helping me make this work and helping create this sense of community all together as we're all on our various pathways in the world of psychology. So hopefully I will see you again soon in a future stream. So keep checking in, and I will too. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a nice summer. Where's my end stream button? Hang on, I'm just going to shut this. Oh, no, wait, I'm not going to shut this. I'm going to unplug my screen.